Welcome back. President Trump made clear today he's not afraid of a government shutdown. It wasn't necessarily welcome news for some Republicans who've spent weeks trying to steer the president away from it. Republicans in Congress are wary of a costly partial shutdown right before the holidays. But President Trump sees a fight over his border wall as a potential political winner with his base. I'm joined now by Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, among other committees that he's on. Senator, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Chuck.
All right, I want to play for you something the president said not that long ago, but after his infamous meeting today with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Take a listen, and I want to get your reaction. We playing it, guys?
But I could have debated Chuck Schumer for a long period of time because he was saying, it's yours, it's your idea. And then finally I said, what, look, I don't mind. I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think? I don't mind having the issue of border security on my side. If we have to close down the country over border security, I actually like that in terms of an issue. Chuck's problem is that, you know, when we last closed down, that was his idea. And honestly, he got killed. And so he doesn't want to own it. And I said, you know what, rather than us debating who's owning it, I'll take it. I will take it because we're closing it down for border security. And I think I win that every single time.
All right, Senator, do you agree with the president?
I don't agree that we ought to shut government down. I think we ought to surprise ourselves and do something intelligent and try to keep it open. But having said that, what I think doesn't really matter. I don't think the president's bluffing. If I were playing poker with him today and I looked across the table and saw the facial expression I saw today and the mannerisms and I didn't have the cards, I'd fold because I don't think he's bluffing.
I understand that, but what cards does he hold? I mean, let me take you know, here to me is the leverage problem he may have. The $1.6 billion that had been agreed to was a number that came from his budget and came from the Senate Appropriations Committee. So it seems to me his issue is with Republicans, not necessarily the Democrats.
Well, I guess this is going to sound naive, Chuck, but I think the president holds the card of principle. He believes, or let me just put it this way. Here's what I believe. I believe legal immigration is good for our country. I believe illegal immigration isn't. I believe walls work. They're working in San Diego and Yuma and El Paso and Israel and Malaysia and Saudi Arabia, and I could keep going. And illegal immigration is illegal. Duh. I don't think some folks around here know that. It undermines legal immigration. And I think $5 billion can go a long way to stopping illegal immigration. Now, here's where I disagree with the president. I don't agree with the president's bureaucrats that this wall, barrier, fence, whatever you want to call it, is going to cost $25 million a mile. I think that's nonsense. I don't agree with him on that, but I think $5 billion can go much further if we get some people who know what they're doing in terms of building a barrier.
Well, I guess what I don't understand is if that was the number, why didn't he ask for it at the beginning? Right? I mean, this is, you know, right? Like, this is what I'm trying to figure out. You're using the poker analogy. He's basically, he's like added cards to the deck that nobody else at the table thought were in the deck.
Well, I can't answer that one. You'll have to direct that one to the president. All I'm saying is we can debate whether a government shutdown is good policy, bad policy, good politics, bad politics. But I'm looking at a man, and my assessment is I don't think he's bluffing, and I'm prepared to stay here over the holidays.
I'm curious, do you feel as if the election results should send a signal to the president that, you know what, you're going to have to compromise a little bit more?
Chuck, I don't know how to answer that because I don't know what's in the president's head. I can just tell you what I believe. I
was just going to say, what do you believe? Yes, I want to know what you believe on this.
I think sometimes you got to go it alone and put the politics aside. I'm not naive. Politics is up here, but obviously. But I think walls work. And I do believe our country is stronger for legal immigration. But I think illegal immigration undermines legal immigration. I'm not saying that all the people who try to come into our country illegal are bad people. There's some very good people. There are also some drug dealers and terrorists and members of gangs. But the point is, we have a mechanism that we know can, in part, stop illegal immigration because we've seen walls work. We've seen them work in America, and we've seen them work throughout the world. And I would hope we'd put aside the politics and say, you know, President wants $5 billion. Let's give him $5 billion.
What?
Let's talk to him about how he's going to spend the money. This $25 million a mile is a little too rich for me, but that's what I would do.
Why haven't you been able to do it? As you had one-party control of the White House, the House, and the Senate for the last 2 years, and you don't have the votes. If you had the votes, you wouldn't need to negotiate with the Democrats. So this is a Republican Party problem, is it not?
Well, not in the Senate. We've got to have 10 Democrats.
I understand that, but in the House, you seem to have a problem in the House.
Well, I know I can't comment on the House, but it doesn't do the House can do what it wants, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't pass the Senate, and we obviously have to get 10 votes in the Senate. I think some of my Democratic colleagues are in perfectly good faith. They just don't think we need a wall. I think others just see it as a political issue and think they're winning on it politically. And I think you've got others who just don't want to do it because they don't like President Trump, period, end of discussion.
Should the president actually offer something? I mean, if you want to negotiate, you usually got to offer something if you want something else in return, especially if you've lost leverage, which he did in the elections.
Well, I think he will. I think he will, and I think that's
what should that be? What would you be offering?
You know, I'd sit down with my Democratic friends and just talk frankly and try to size them up and see how serious I think they are and see whether I think they're bluffing. You know, there is a way out of this. It won't solve the problem, but we can keep government from shutting down by just doing another CR if we can't resolve it. I'm not a big fan of continuing resolutions, but the way we've been spending money around here, doing a continuing resolution to maintain the status quo would actually save some taxpayer money.
You're probably hinting at what is the likely results, because usually these things go that way. You're on the Judiciary Committee. You'll likely be hearing the nomination of the president's pick for Attorney General Bill Barr. I'm just curious. He has an expansive view of executive power. One of your Republican colleagues, Rand Paul, for him, that might be a bridge too far in supporting him. Where are you on Mr. Barr? Are you inclined to support him, or do you have any concerns?
I don't know him. I'm going to do my job. I'll ask him tough questions. I want to know what his feelings are about the Mueller investigation. I think we ought to let Mr. Mueller finish. I'm not sure he's ever going to issue a report. I'm beginning to suspect that he's not, and that concerns me, but we'll save that topic for another day. I want to know how expansive Mr. Barr's view of the executive privilege is. I'm going to do my job. I mean, if I think he's qualified, I'm going to support him, but if I think he isn't. But I just don't know the man. He was
reportedly, there's a report that he actually met with the president about being his personal attorney to replace John Dowd in the Mueller probe. Is that enough to trigger a recusal in your head?
Nah.
Okay.
No, I mean, there's some people around here think that as a lawyer, if you take the position of your client, that becomes your own personal position. And that's not been my experience. Lawyers' personal opinions about things don't matter. What matters is what your client thinks. Right. And I've seen a lot of my colleagues criticize judicial nominees. Well, because you represented this client, and this client told you to take this position. Yeah. Well, duh. That's how the practice of law works. Clients don't come to you and give you a bunch of money and say, now go do what you want. They say, here's what I want. I'm paying you to try to get it done.
All right. John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana. Thanks for coming on, sharing your views, sure. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Chuck.